bang on 66 feet, 36 tonne of boat, 2,600 litres of diesel, run by a pair of 900 horsepower Volvo IPS. I believe this is the sort of boat that you would maximise your usable space, but still have the possibility of running the thing yourself. So is that true? Keep watching, let's find out. It's about 33 degrees today, so it's wonderful. And look at this background. Because you're quite forward, you feel like you're almost in the cockpit of an aeroplane with all of this glass here. So we're running the D13 1200s on this boat, and I'm obviously at the lower helm. We'll drive at the upper helm a little bit later to give you a feel. So they're twin 900 horsepowers, and I'm just coming in at a slow speed of 21 knots that I'm going to increase to about 25 because she feels like she wants to go a bit more. Then we'll put her through a bit of a slow banking turn here. Okay. So the dead rise on this boat is 17 degrees of dead rise as opposed to the 13 degrees on the 770. So I would imagine she's going to be a little bit sportier, lead into the turns, 36 tonne light ship on this particular boat, and just coming through at 23 knots, burning 222 litres total at that speed. And what I'm going to do, once I find a straight line, I'm going to give the boat wide open throttle and give you guys the fuel numbers as we do. Okay, let's start to increase that power. Leveling out, increasing power, bit of bow raise. I've got a tiny bit of trim tab down. You really feel that acceleration there. Revs coming through 2,200. I'm not full throttle yet, 2,300 and climbing, 345 litres. Speed's climbing through 32 knots. Crikey, she gets along. 33. Let's just raise the trim tabs fully, 33.5. And then let's feel with the trim tabs down. You do feel the lighter weight in this hull compared to the 770, the next one up. 33 with trim tabs up. And then just give a couple degrees of trim tab down. Still sitting on, no, 33.5. So a little bit of a speed increase at that. I'm just going to maintain that speed and go hard turn now, just to feel that 17 degrees of dead rise. Oh yeah, that's noticeable. That is super noticeable. So you can actually hear one of the sinks. That's breathing as I turn. So that's really, really sporty. And I'm going to come off the pace there. And now I'm going to give the boat a couple of S turns through here. 26 to 27 knots. Fuel flow at 255 litres at that 26 knots. Let's just level the boat out. Okay, got a boat up ahead. 250 litres, 25 knots. I'm going to go a little bit of bow down. Okay, 2,000 revs. I'm just doing more gradual turns now. Feels good. Definitely a sporty boat. You could put this alongside, I would say, some of the Azimut S series in terms of the feedback that I'm getting right now through the hull. Okay, 25 knots, still sitting on that 240 litres. I'm going to come through this turn still with a bit of speed, going through my own wash there, and then we're going to slow the boat down and just see what we get at range, and we'll slow it right down for some of you guys who want to do the longer distance stuff. Okay. So this pillar gives you a little bit of a loss of visibility at times, but because you're quite forward, you feel like you're almost in the cockpit of an aeroplane with all of this glass here. It does feel quite cool. I've got air conditioning wafting on me from multiple directions, so I'm comfortable, and you do get a bit of a fighter-like feel sitting in the chair here with the controls like so. And forward, as I am right now, I've electrically powered the seat forward. I do have more than sufficient visibility, just factoring in this loss through the pillar here. So now I'm going to come off the pace a little bit. Got my waves coming through. I don't have a seatkeeper on this particular boat. 22 knots. 22 knots at 200 litres. Going to give a little bit of a trim tab down. Let's slow it down to 20 knots. Okay, 20 and a half knots, just getting close to 20 knots. Look at that, 160 to 155 litres total at 20 knots. We're still on the plane. Okay, now let's just back that off a little bit more. I'll just see where it feels like it wants to come off the plane. I'm at 19 knots, 147 litres. Okay, she's starting to settle. 17 knots, 16 knots, 16 knots, 110 litres. Let's come off the plane. All right, I've got to come right off the plane now just to see where she wants to settle back up into. So I'll get down to something like 8 knots. Let my swell catch up with me. All good. I'm going to have some waves coming from the side. Wow, that fuel flow's really dropped right off. So I'm just 9 knots and slowing. Let's just see where she wants to go. I'm going to have some waves of my own making in a second. I'm going to turn into those. Okay, at 7 knots, I'm doing 23 litres. Let's just bring that up to 8. We're going for our long distance cruise numbers here. Okay, just hitting 8 knots at 27 litres. That's still a bit slow for some of you, so we'll see what she does at 10. 9 knots and climbing. 9.5 knots. Okay, just nudging 10 knots, 55 litres. I think some of you are probably going to sit between that 8 and 10 knots for long range, and we'll just see what she does at 12 knots for good measure. $11, 73 litres at 11 knots. A little bit more. She feels like she's starting to drag her bum a little bit at over 11 knots, so I'm not sure how efficient that is. And look at that fuel flow just coming through at 94 litres. So I suspect if you're going to go for range, we're probably going to be back below that 10 knots where she feels a lot more settled, and I can see that fuel flow dropping below the 50 litres and a lot more after that. Very interesting. Okay, this place, Florianopolis, is absolutely gorgeous, so I'm going to go find another. We're just spoilt for choice here. Stunning anchorage. I'm going to go up to the Flybridge. We'll play with the transition from this Helm to the wing station to the Flybridge, and we'll test how she maneuvers on the IPS joystick, the visibility from upstairs, and then we'll drop the anchor and see how that all feels as well. Keep watching. All right, up the stairs, plenty of areas to grab onto should you need. Clear walkway through. Your guests are going to be out of the way here. Just remember to take control by pressing the station button, and then we're going to creep in nice and slowly up to the tiki bar. The Brazilian tiki bar, where we're going to do a little touch and go for you just to demonstrate the maneuverability from the Flybridge. The wind's in your hair up here, so if you're going fast, make sure you're doing it in a warm country, because you would freeze your nuts off if you didn't have clears up the front here in a cold country. But it's absolutely gorgeous up here because it's about 33 degrees today. So it's wonderful. And look at this background. This, honestly, Florianopolis, it's like Thailand. I thoroughly enjoy this place. It's so beautiful. And Brazil itself feels like a mixture between Australia, Thailand, and Europe. So go figure. Anyway, very, very cool. So here we are on final approach. Just let everyone see the tiki bar, and I'm going to transition to the joystick in a second. I've just got it on, I'll leave it on low mode. You have low and high mode. Make sure everyone can see what I'm seeing. I had the seat flipped up. Now I've just transitioned to the standing position. I'll press docking and I'll just drift in and start to operate the boat on joystick mode. I'm just gonna hold off so he doesn't actually think I'm coming to buy some, what is it, oysters here? I think it's an oyster bar. And then I will stop the boat and side slip it into the tiki bar. For those of you with a keen eye, I'd like you to pay attention to all the girls twerking on the back of the boat off to my starboard side. I did not pick this location because of the twerking. I picked it because of the wind, I'll have you know. Alrighty. So just controlling the boat there, a little bit of wind, and I'll get us up and alongside the tiki bar. Now, I don't have to do this from up on the Flybridge. We do have a wing station downstairs. So if you were coming in with intention to step off the boat, I'd suggest you probably just use the wing station. I'm just giving you a demonstration of the boat's maneuverability. So here we are, stopping the boat. Now I'm just going to slide it in slowly towards the tiki bar. It's controllable. A little bit more vibration noticeable from up here on the Flybridge as opposed to downstairs, but very controllable. My visibility is great to the side and forward, not so much aft. That's why you would resolve that problem with the wing station. And from an anchoring perspective, which we're about to do, you've got all the visibility in the world. So now I'm sliding myself back out and away from the tiki bar, trying not to stir up too much mud. However, not totally succeeding with that. Really smooth, easy peasy, nice to control. All right, let's go drop the anchor. So anchoring's pretty straightforward on this boat. You just press release and then up or down or up on this switch here. Single bow roller. It's also got facility for a rope because there's a drum on the windlass. You can see everything. I would recommend a chain counter if you're going to get the boat because it just makes your life a lot easier. And operating from the wing station is probably more relevant for when you're parking the boat. It's just down there on the starboard side. Not too complicated. You just activate the wing station and get cracking. So that's the boat, guys. She feels quite sporty, in my opinion. Come out the back and we'll finish it out here so I don't get distracted by the girls twerking on the other boat over there. This is a sporty boat. This is a boat you can operate solo for sure, with crew, if that's your vibe, is my kind of take on this. It's probably the size that many of you are going to envisage about the max for a solo operator, is my guess. Leave a comment below if you agree or disagree. She's fast. She leans quite actively into those turns, so you're noticing that 17 degrees of dead rise as opposed to 13 degrees of dead rise I had on the 770 yesterday. So if you're looking for speed and feedback, this boat's going to do it for you. If you're interested in the interior, and it's a super bougie interesting one, that's a separate video to this. If you want to see some competition to this boat, some of the other brands I've tested, I'll pop a couple of them up on the screen right now. Don't forget to subscribe, support the channel where you can. I've got a Patreon. If you enjoy this sort of content, new videos every week. My name's Dan Jones. You've been watching Dan's Boat Life. You're all bloody legends. See you on the next one.